this is what I'm wanting. I don't want it to be just a deck, just a divination tool. I want it to be so transformative where the box is in your life and it's like you don't even open it and it's working its magic.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of Deck Creator Corner. Today I'm being joined by Anielle Reid. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's the creator of the currently on Kickstarter, the Golden Light Tarot. She also created the Magick and Mediums Oracle, and she also created the Slavic Oracle. And so today we are going to have a conversation with her and talk all about her deck creations and her projects. I think I just saw her hop on, so let me see if I can have her join me here in a second. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool, because there's like the cicadas are so loud right now.
Yeah.
So I was hoping it wasn't gonna like interfere with my voice.
It's awesome. It's giving me like nature and I love it.
That's really great. Yeah, a lot of people are annoyed by the cicadas, but I actually find them soothing in a way because
Yeah.
they just remind me of my childhood because I spent like 5 years of my childhood here in Florida. So,
Me too.
yeah.
I'm from Florida.
Oh, yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
I lived in Florida for a few years because my dad was stationed here. He was in the Coast Guard, so I lived here for a few years, and now I'm back here in Florida visiting my partner and helping with the farm and all the plants and stuff. So, yeah, it's really awesome. But yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. Am I saying your name right, Anielle?
Yes, perfect. That's my pin name. It's awesome.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm so glad to have you here, Anielle. And before we get started, and as we let people trickle in, I just wanted to do a quick sound healing, sound cleansing to kind of set the space for the rest of the conversation. And all I want to ask of you is just to close your eyes and just take 2 or 3 deep breaths at your own pace while I do the sound healing. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for that. That was lovely. With that, Anielle, I'd just like to give you the stage for a second and let you just give us a quick introduction, names, what your pronouns are, maybe some of your aspirations and some of what you want to do in the world with your work and stuff.
Okay, well, I'm going to read. I say, I see, from the witch, from the badass, um, I think is to create that community in my people who makes me this important to be able to and to do the right work from just people to find their own
I love that so much. And I really, with the deck that you sent me, I really get that vibe because I really feel connected to magic when I was going through the cards. And I really, and even I didn't mention this in the unboxing, but I noticed afterwards that you have like find your magic on the box and then here, use your magic. And so I really feel like it really kind of struck a chord within me. So I'm really excited to explore the golden light because I noticed that it is a little bit different. And I'm
yeah.
excited to like dive into that. But I wanted to ask you about like why Oracle? Like what got you into Oracle cards and what got you into like wanting to create Oracle cards?
I portal amazing portals to different worlds, to be honest. And I found that this connected with taking Oracle as well because it was just easier to find like oracles that take you to the dragon realm, the old world. So many any world you can think of, there's like an oracle for it. So I loved that sense of taking someone into a very particular theory and not as rigid, because it doesn't have the structures like the thought or the rhetoric system, which kind of confines things a bit. So I've always loved oracles. And I forgot the second part of the question.
The second part of the question, oh, it was why, like, why did what motivated you to want to create Oracle decks?
So I always loved them. And like probably around 5 years ago, I was like a micro card influencer. And then from getting cards sent to me and doing videos, I realized, I must be good at selling them, like if I'm getting these decks to me. So that gave me the confidence to really just go and make what I wanted to make. Like that just gave me the boost and the push. Um, and then I started my podcast, Magick and Medium's podcast, and that's where I initially first started working with the artist for the Magick and Medium Oracle. And she did the podcast art so amazingly, yeah, that I was like, let's do a deck. Literally, it was like we had a baby. It was done in 9 months. And that's it all started. And I made another, and I'm on the third one.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I think that it's so amazing to recognize a niche, right? Recognize somewhere where we feel like, oh, you know what? I can do this. Like this is something that calls to me. And also, I think a big part of why we're driven to create decks is because we want to see more out there of what resonates with us. And like you said, with Oracle, it's almost a little bit easier to be diverse and inclusive because you don't have to worry about the different levels of structure and the baggage behind the labels used in tarot. Like you can be so free with Oracle, and I that kind of really brings me into a question that I wanted to ask you was about like the importance of diversity and spiritual imagery, and wondering if that had any influence in why you're wanting to create the decks that you're creating. And especially like the Slavic Oracle, where it's like you're bringing knowledge from a cult of a culture to other people through an Oracle deck. And so I wonder how much of that influences like just everything about making decks and Oracle decks and stuff.
Yeah, so I come at from the standpoint that oracles are real portals to magical worlds. And so I'm always being true to that world. Um,
Mm.
so when it comes to diverse, I do see a lot of major publishers and individuals too throwing diversity around because it's a trending keyword, people like diverse decks. Um, but for me, what's diverse is being my complete authentic self, which I find myself to be a minority only because of the way I think. I, I, the label I put on myself first was witch. Then I was like, oh, I'm black. I'm a woman. So for me, those talks about diversity is very like superficial. And when I talk about diversity, it's on like kind of a level that most people aren't thinking. So the Slavic Oracle for me, I made it because I wasn't really seeing diversity in decks. And other people might think that that's weird because it's all white characters. But at the time that I made the deck, anybody who's on Instagram knew that there were people saying, well, if you have 3 white characters, it's too many. I'm not going to buy the deck. And so I'm saying it's not about having all women, it's not diverse, all men, it's not diverse, all black or white. It's really representing all of these different energies. So that's what I'm about when it comes to diversity. Um, and people have, run Reddit threads against me, emailed me about how I don't really agree with what they're pushing with diversity. Um, but that's what I see. Diversity is being your utmost authentic self. And so I make decks because I do see some decks are just being Me Too decks, and it's so obvious. Like when they put a black person, when they put a man, it's only because three people wrote them an email and said, I want diversity. Like, you know
Yep.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I real diversity in my decks. If I feel like if I've come across a new energy and it's new to me, I'm going to put it in there. But if it's fake to me, I'm not going to put it in there. So you might see another deck and it's all black men. You probably won't, but I'm saying like if that's authentic to me, that's going to be the diverse deck that I put out because you're going to see that all people who look this way, they're not bringing the same energy. It's just a vessel that happens to look the same.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that there is a tendency also to, like, especially for something like I keep on thinking of the Slavic Oracle. It comes up to mind because that's also, all white, but then at the same time, it's also something that isn't, a lot of people don't have exposure to that. There's not a way for us to interact and honor and respect whatever culture that belongs to because there's no oracle decks. And I mean, through the oracle and tarot
Yeah.
lens, right? And
Yes.
so I think it's important in the spiritual imagery lens to have those focuses. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Slavic Oracle. Can you tell
Yeah.
me, like, what what was, yes, that is, the box and the imagery is beautiful. But I'm
Thank you.
I'm wondering, I'm wanting to just know a little bit about what inspired you to make that, and like, yeah, just the story behind the Slavic Oracle, a little bit. It
So,
doesn't have to be the whole
I
story.
oh, it's kind of short. It's really
Okay.
in 2020, I really felt that I wanted. So decks are literally my babies. I literally see it as like if you want to connect to me, you pull out my deck, and that's how you do it. And this is my child. And I at that point, I was like, I didn't know if I wanted to have a baby, and I was having dreams. Hey, Melissa, I was having dreams about like of my baby. I could feel the soul of my baby, and my current husband is Polish, and so like it was very like I just felt like I wanted to know more about Polish culture, blah blah blah. Um, and then also when I did an interview with Natasha Helgen, who has a book called Russian Black Magic and Slavic Witchcraft. And a lot of people in the comments were saying, I'm so glad you did this interview because I'm Polish American or I'm Slavic American and I know nothing about Slavic witchcraft. All the books are burned, that kind of thing. So I was thinking to myself, I already, because I'm married to this guy, my ancestors in laws, I have access, so I can channel, I can create this. I know there's a need. I'm wanting to birth something. And even if I have a child, I want my child to be able to easily have something in English that can expose them to, I don't want to say Slavic witchcraft because magic is magic, but Slavic witchcraft. So that's really where it came from. And it also came from me just being upset when I mentioned the diversity. I literally just saw people doing literal campaigns against white decks, white creators, and I was like, that's not cool. And I was like, in my mind, in the back of my mind, it's not why I did it, but I kind of felt that if I didn't make the Slavic Oracle for the American person, if a white person did it, they would have been like canceled. And I wanted the deck, and I figured I can do it. Nobody's going to cancel me. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
why?
it's interesting to think about it in that way, right? Because you're totally right. Like, I feel like with the current societal climate, if a white creator were to come out with an all white deck, they'd be like, "Oh, white supremacy," and which, in their defense, it could be, but it's the automatic labeling, right? It's that automatic, like, not even giving a chance for it to be expressed or to be manifested. And so, yeah, I
Exactly.
think that's so important to have these conversations about, like, not only like the diversity in tarot with people of color, but also not canceling people who are just, wanting to create more of their culture.
Yeah.
And so it's really about the substance, right? It's about what's actually being manifested, like what are the intentions behind them. It's not just about automatically canceling something because of X or Y reason. And this is a really important conversation because, like I said, the current climate in the tarot community is very sensitive to that. And even I'm sensitive to it because for a long time, I didn't realize that it is true that people of color are missing from a lot of spiritual imagery. And especially in tarot, when I was doing tarot, for the first like maybe 5 years, I just knew of almost pretty much white people in decks. And so I understand the need for like that diversity, but that doesn't mean that now these other decks aren't important too. And somebody said here, and you're such a great deck creator. Exactly. And so I think that it really boils down to just allowing people to manifest those things that resonate with them. And especially if it's something on a personal level, right? Like, because a lot of the times people don't create decks for other people. A lot of the people that I've
Yeah.
talked to, they're like, "Oh, I made this because I felt like I needed this in my life," and or like you were saying, like a family member of mine might need this for future generations to learn about their ancestors. Like there's usually always some reason why we are, because creating a deck isn't easy. So like you really have to have like the drive to do it.
Yeah.
And I've been learning that as I've been doing these interviews, is learning about like the process of creating a deck, and that it really isn't easy, and that if you're going to like jump onto this like train, you have to really feel passionate and strongly about it. And so that's why it's so important to have those like personal connections.
Yeah.
Um, and it's even more complicated when you add to the mix where, you're not illustrating the deck, right? You're finding somebody to like want to manifest what you're seeing here. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit because most of the tarot creators that I interview, they self-illustrate their deck. They do like all the things, which to me is just like I don't even know how they do that. But I've also, I've had the chance to talk to a couple of people who did source their artwork from an illustrator. And so I wanted to ask about your experience with that. How did you find your illustrators? Did you already have people in mind? And what was that like working with an illustrator and like having them, you having something in here and then communicating that to them, like, this is what I want.
So I found Ash Color, who did the Magic and Mediums Oracle, through Instagram, actually. There's a really fun, it's called Inktober, hashtag. So everyone in October creates really witchy art. So
Hmm.
I found her, and then I was like, can you do art for my podcast? I loved it. And then I would just give her prompts. So I'm a psychic medium channel, so either the prompts would be something that visually way, or just really this to that, because all the origin also isn't just like a portal to other worlds. It's kind of feel like it's a portal to my own self. So it's literally a
Hmm.
way that like and the other. Um, so yeah, we had those things that we would come out and listen songs, and they would just both artists that I worked with. Cindy Monroy, I found it on Upwork. It's just so easy. So pretty much for me, I'm very intuitive, and I'm also very like feeling like if something, I feel like a death is being made just because I want it to be made, and I'm gonna make it. I feel like I'm connecting to this big web, and there's a desire for this work, and I'm just channeling it through for people who want to access that energy. So I feel that I don't really worry too much about finding the person. I just put the intent out, and they always come. The right person is.
Yeah, and I think that's a big worry that a lot of dead creators have, who don't feel like, or who feel like they want to hire an illustrator out for their work, is like there's this fear of like, one, just having to work with somebody you don't know and like figuring out who it is, but two is like also there's this worry about like how that relationship is going to work and like the logistics of like getting your ideas across. And I think I had the same talk with Kim from Fable's Den, and I also interviewed the illustrator of the Way of the Panda Tarot, and both of them basically were saying what you were saying, and it was more along the lines of like when you're in this kind of like magical flow, right? And you're putting out your tentacles to like connect to other people. Um, when you find that connection, it's like it's almost like it flows, right? You don't have to work hard, and it's not like this thing where you're trying to do. It's like the illustrator that is going to harmonize with your art is going to find you, and it's not going to be this complicated process. I mean, it is complicated in the sense of like there's a lot of like stuff happening and back and forth and fixing and editing, but at the same time it's going to feel really organic and holistic. And that's that's what I've been able to gather from the creators who've worked with illustrators, and it's really helped me put myself at ease, because I've been really stressing about like, oh, like how am I going to find somebody to illustrate this? Like I don't even know what art styles I want. Like I have no clue what to even where to start looking for. And I think it's been really good to hear that if you're just trusting in the process, right? You allow yourself to be authentic. You use that word a lot, authentic self, and I love that because I say that a lot too within my readings and with my clients. I'm like, just find your authentic self and just like try to keep on pursuing that. And I think that not pushing for anything and not over stressing for over certain things is going to be a key aspect for me and for a lot of people who want to kind of jump on this journey. Um, so yeah, I think I wanted to talk a little bit about the Golden Light Oracle now. So that's the new deck. Super exciting. It's I don't know if you noticed, but it's 111% right now.
Oh, oh, that's such an amazing number. Oh,
Yes.
good.
Yes. So I was just looking at the Kickstarter before I came on, and it's 111% funded, and I was like, "Ooh, angel numbers." Um, but yeah. So yeah, talk to me about the Golden Oracle. Like, why did that come to fruition, and like, what really called you to manifest this new deck? Also, quick PS: did you do Kickstarters for the other ones too?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
Yes, for
okay.
all three decks. Hmm. That's pretty much my
Okay.
process.
Okay.
Um, and so the Golden Light Oracle, I definitely was feeling like 2020 was a big year because 2020 also I had the idea for Slavic Oracle and I made Slavic Oracle in 2020. But then towards the end of 2020, I was realizing that I was still ascending. Like I thought
Mm.
that I was a witch. I know my powers. I'm good at this stuff. I have a psychic medium channel. And then 2020 came and was like, and you also can do this. And I was like, and like I felt like it was another like dark night of the soul, but also more magic. And I was like, oh my god, you're becoming the goddess? Like it was just so intense. And all my friends were like, I'm going through this. I didn't even know that I could do this and that. And like it was crazy, like sci-fi, CW, hot magic stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need a day that kind of honors this new place that we're in. We always talk about light working and let's go to 5D and we're ascending, but it's kind of like,
Yes.
okay, what happens after you do the trust and you jump off the cliff? Like, what's the magic there? So this
Right.
was definitely, yeah, this was the death steps to be like, okay, you've trusted your intuition. You've done everything. You're in the whole new world. What's next? What do you need to refresh yourself on? Now that you know that you're a soul, that you're a magical being, like there's other things now, you know? So it's really for if you're in that spiritual transition, you're in that ascension process, you find yourself in a whole new world, which I feel a lot of us are in like this after death. Like it feels like it was DC and now we're like in this new place and we're like, well, what's next? You know? So this is what this deck is about. It's definitely with brushes for the spiritual person, but I feel like it's my most spiritual deck ever. And once you start making your deck, you'll realize this too. That's a deck changes your life because it is a magic. So whenever I'm working on one card, the magic will work itself in my life. So you'll never see
Mm.
any evil in any of my cards. I don't want to die. So I feel like it's pushing me to get like move forward, to move out, to be more myself, because to me, like, make a deck of a golden light oracle and not feeling golden light itself. You know? So this is about real, spiritual, magical, life changing. Like you are about this god and goddess life right now. This is this deck.
That is so amazing. Everything you're saying about the Golden Light Oracle and about this period of ascension and growing into fuller power and really kind of diving deep into those new themes that are going to come up because of that. You know, we're in a different world now, spiritually, at least I am. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really awesome to hear that these are going to explore some of those deeper spiritual like aspects. And I think that, you know, based on some of the cards I've seen, it also doesn't shy away from those more direct messages, like that one I put on the graphic that was like, be silent. You know, sometimes it's just like, shut the fuck up. You know, like and I just
Yes.
love that. I just love that because it's not all like peace and flowers alive. You know, you're in the underworld, ascending from the underworld, like shit is like trying to tear back at you and like keep you down. And so like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be explored, and I'm really excited to kind of dive deeper into those with this oracle. So yeah, that's really awesome, and it's really good to hear that about the Golden Light Oracle. Get a little bit more of like the behind the scenes of like why it's here and why it's manifesting for us, you know. And that's what I love to hear. Like when I do these interviews, is like every deck, like it's almost like it has its own life and its own purpose, like its own
Yeah.
outside of the creator who's doing it. You know, it's like the deck just takes off on its own, and it does what it does. And sometimes, like I was talking to Brendan of the Pacific Northwest, and he's like, you know, some people have been like making connections and seeing things that I was not even, you know, trying to put there or whatever. And so yeah, I love that, like aside from our intentions, it has kind of like its own life and its own purpose. And I love seeing that like come together with like the Kickstarter community. I did want to ask you about your Kickstarter history then, because I wasn't sure about the Slavic and the
Magic and
Magic
Medium.
and Mediums. Yeah, I wasn't sure what process you went through to publish them and stuff. And so now I kind of want to get into some of those deck creator questions and kind of see like what
Okay.
your process was and stuff. And so yeah, how was that like doing Kickstarter for the first time with, was it Slavic or was it Magic and Mediums that came first, right?
Magic and Mediums was the first one, yeah. So I did the Magic and Mediums one. That was to create it. It was my first ever Kickstarter. And it was recently after I made my podcast, which I think really helped me because Kickstarter doesn't, unless you're at like $50,000, they're not doing ads for you. So I had my podcast, a little community, um, my Instagram, anyways, got shadow banned. So I did have like a lot of followers on my original Instagram. So that helped me to get original funding. Then I did second printing. I did the second printing on Kickstarter as well. Um, and then I did the Slavic Oracle on Kickstarter. Um, and now I'm doing the Golden Oracle. I feel that like Kickstarter, it does have like an in-house community of people who like are tarot addicts. So once they see a tarot, they don't even care. They just can't. So it's such a great place if you're making a tarot deck to just put it out there. Sure, not all of them are going to, come to listen, but I think it's a great place to consume it.
Yeah, I was, you know, considering doing like pre-orders at first, like before I started the interview series and stuff. I was like, oh, maybe I'll do pre-orders because I had been reading about like Kickstarter fees, and like I was like, I don't know exactly how much that's going to be and if it's going to be worth it or all that stuff. But I think I've pretty much been totally convinced to the Kickstarter team. Kim, I think, is here, and Kim is totally like, she is all about Kickstarter too. Um, and she really helped me understand like I really have I don't have a positive relationship with marketing. I don't like marketing. I don't like feeling like I'm like pushing my stuff onto other people. And so Kim helped me move through some of that, and she helped me understand, it's not marketing like that. It's like you're just wanting to share your product and what your message with other people. And she said that Kickstarter is a really great way to do that. One, because everybody knows Kickstarter nowadays. Like
Yeah.
it's like a trusted platform. Whereas like there's gonna be less inclined to go to like cosmicwheeltarot.com and pre-order there because like who's Cosmic Wheel Tarot, but if the Kickstarter platform kind of gives you that like credibility, I guess, that people kind of want,
Yeah.
so that they can support you. So I feel like I've been totally hooked onto the Kickstarter, and that's probably what I'm gonna go with because I feel like it's. I don't think I've talked. I don't think. Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody who's doing. I think one creator is doing pre-orders, but all of the other creators are just like, you know what, I'm doing Kickstarter,
Yeah,
and
right
it
now.
just makes. Yeah, exactly. It's already there. The platform's there. People know it, and so it's good to hear that even with. Because a lot of the times people also expect like, oh, if I do a Kickstarter, it has to be like this big Kickstarter with a bunch of backers and all this stuff. And so like that's not true either. You don't have to like have all of these things. You can start on a smaller scale, and it seems like that's kind
Yeah.
of what you're doing too, like, and I love to have these more like down to earth, like mundane examples because it is easy sometimes for something on Kickstarter to go viral, but at the same time, it doesn't have to go viral to be successful, you know?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's where the thing people have, don't get so worried about like, oh, I'm not gonna get as many, or it's not gonna be as popular or as big, but it's about getting your creation out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so Kim says, I love Kickstarters. It's exciting times and great exposure. Exactly. That's exactly how I feel about it. Hey, Shaniqua, good to see you here. I think Shaniqua was one of the creators that I talked to that she was thinking of doing pre-orders. But I think she switched to doing a Kickstarter because I think maybe there has been, a realization that maybe the Kickstarter is a little bit, there might be some benefit to using that. So I think it's definitely one of those things where um, I feel like, especially if it's your first deck, um, it'd be good to use the Kickstarter platform. Is
Yeah.
I think generally what most people would say.
Yeah, I do the Kickstarter now. I do the Kickstarter. I do first I do the Kickstarter. Then I started. I think I did maybe Dojo, but nobody went on there and I wasn't posting it. But I did pre-orders exactly and then on my website. And then obviously once I got the deck in, then it was like, okay, sale. So you can still do pre-orders and a Kickstarter. So
That's really smart too. I didn't
yeah,
think of that.
that's what I do. Exactly, exactly. So there's so many, like when it comes to the marketing too, I feel like when it comes to decks, like you're not really pushing anything on anyone because your clients, there's most of them, if they're using decks, they're psychic. So they're not going to be sold or pushed. Like either the energy
Mm.
or it doesn't. Like there is no marketing with a real witch. Like she knows the energy that's in the deck. She's not going to be bamboozled, most likely.
Yes. Yeah,
There's
I'm gonna shake to that because that makes a lot of sense too because it's like honoring um yourself but also honoring your audience and having faith that they're also going to recognize that if it's coming from a place of authenticity, they'll see that and they'll understand and know and want to support it, because they see, oh, this is an authentic project, I'm gonna support this. So I think that's a great piece of advice too, because it's not something that we think about, and especially with marketing, because like when you think about marketing, you just think of it in the Western capitalistic framework, of like I'm just trying to push something onto somebody else. But marketing doesn't have to be like that. It can be a
Yeah.
lot more holistic and really reflect more of what you were saying. Um, Kim said a comment here. It says, "Your deck isn't a one-hit wonder. Your deck life doesn't end after your Kickstarter."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I've heard too from a lot of people is that, well, for the more complicated projects and the projects that have a lot of artists and stuff, those seem to be ones that I tend to notice they just do like limited editions and they don't do more of the decks after they've done their Kickstarter. But for the most part, I've noticed that almost every single deck creator isn't like, oh, okay, I did a tarot deck, successful, peace, I'm out, like I'm not here anymore. For the most part, like every single deck creator is like, I'm here and I'm staying here and I'm doing more and I'm doing this and that and offering. But also, I've noticed too that in honoring this space as well as I've noticed with some deck creators that like after their Kickstarter and everything, it's been like challenging. It's been hard to kind of get moving again and like maybe like finding that you're not getting as many likes or getting as many followers or there's some struggles and some challenges. And so I wanted to ask you, Anielle, if you have any of those current or past challenges that you've had to face as a deck creator in this society and stuff.
So I think the beginning of our conversation really explains a lot of what I will say. Like I said, my other Instagram, I was shadow banned. A lot of people, um, I'm really, like I said, the label that I put myself as a young age when I was 10 and knew what a witch was, I told my mom I want to be a witch. That was the label I wanted to put on myself. And then black was put on me, woman was put on me, overweight was put on me. Um, so at the end of the day, I I'm just a person who believes in magic and sees people like as a soul. Like even if somebody's like, can you describe the person who's interviewing right now? I think of you as like an energy and how I'm feeling, more so than like curly hair. So that's just
Mm.
who I am. And so that in a world of online right now isn't really popular. Like what's more popular is saying writing a post about white people can't use sage versus a post that says sage elevates all people who do magic. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be a point where you're going to see why witches were burned because witches are against the narrative. They're about freedom. They're about real magic, transformation, against the bullshit. So I think because of that, I don't push what could have infiltrated the online witchy community. I'll say it. Um, we found there were some points that were like a little quote unquote difficult, but they were never difficult. Like people who like the art, they always going to find that they're going to buy the book. Um, so I do feel that like it depends on what your deck is. So when I came out with the Magick and Medium Oracle, that was like 2018. This is when the witches of Instagram was a thing, but it wasn't like overly saturated, you know.
Mm.
So it was a really good time where people were listening to podcasts about witchcraft and it was like legit like witchcraft being talked about.
Right.
So I came in at a good time. And people were into that. They wanted like a feminine deck that was also a bit dark and that had like
Mm.
they wanted to see a girl with an afro doing crystal grid. So I was like tuned in. That was good timing. So then you just have to think too, Slavic Oracle. Think of like, I'm in America. I'm not in a Slavic like country. So it's not going to be doing like, as it's not as universal as the Magick and Medium deck, but it's still very successful. Like the people who buy this are people who are ancestrally Slavic, mainly. Those are the main people who buy this. This one is like, you are a witch. So you just have to look at what is your deck. There's going to be a deck that's so niche that it's like, if you make a deck and it's like, I'm a girl who thinks about having sex with a dragon, you're probably only going to get 10 clients. Versus if you do like, I'm a girl who thinks about having sex with everyone. It's like, then everyone's going to relate to that. So a little bit about my funny nature here. So I think that it's not just about the timing and stuff. It's about what is your deck? What's the art? What's the energy of it? Some things are just more approachable than, another thing too is like I have two cards that might repel witches. I have a praise card because I grew up listening to gospel. I have a Sacred Heart card because I
Yep.
went to Catholic school. So there's going to be some people who are going to be like, oh, my God, So you have to, you can't take anything personally. Some decks are going to resonate with more people. Like, for instance, especially on Kickstarter, there was a time, if you came in with a tarot deck and you said my lover's card is a gay couple, then bam,
That
you
was
hit
it.
$80,000, you gotta know your audience. You gotta know the political climate too. Because that it's not just about, it is about energy, but when we're talking about money and Kickstarter, it is about what's trending too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's part of what's challenging, right? Is that like we as creators, like feel like if we're not trending, we're not worthy. If we're not trending, if we're not getting all the likes, if we're not getting all the attention, there's this big space of like, oh, and I feel it too. And I'm not even a deck creator. I just have an Instagram page and it's like, oh, I got 20 likes less than last time. Like, what is going on? Like, do people not like what I'm posting? Like, it's almost an immediate reaction to like the social climate, right, of Instagram and the platform and like what's trending and what's not trending. And so I think it's really important for us to create space to be okay with not trending or being okay with not getting as many followers or not getting as many likes as X or Y person. It's like that comparison game, right? It's like we have to try to like not play it, and it's so hard to do
You
that.
know,
Like,
because I've been in this space, I've been on Instagram for like years, and I've seen it before people knew that there was an algorithm, before they knew Instagram had a narrative. I take it as, you know what, that's actually awesome that I'm not trending. One reason is because we talked about people ascending. People are not saying that this is a horrible platform or anything, but there's a lot of people who are above these social media platforms. You'll meet shamans and like crazy witches. They can't even use technology because their vibration, they get a phone and the phone breaks. And I'm not kidding. Like, you
yeah,
have those technology does not vibe with you.
yep, oh yes,
It's not it's not anything against you. And to a certain degree, you should be proud that your deck, sometimes I find that the more spiritual a deck is, the more light that's in it. It's not gonna get the million, because let's face it, a million people on Kickstarter are not ready for this angelic, energy. They're not there. So it's not an insult by
yes,
any
yes. I totally agree, and I think it's an important perspective shift to have that kind of idea that, oh, you know what, like it's from the beginning. I'm not expecting this for everybody, and on the contrary, sometimes people, like, not everybody needs access to this information right now. Like they can't process it, they can't understand it, etc., etc. Like you said about the two cards here, which I noticed because I had a Catholic upbringing. So I was like, whoa. So they totally like brought that in me. But for me, it was more of like a syncretization because like I'm familiar with like Santeria because that's really big back home in Puerto Rico, and that's like a totally syncretized religion and with Christianity and stuff. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, I can see how for some people that might they're gonna be like, whoa, but at the same time, like it's almost like it's kind of needed, right? Like, and so that's the kind of energy that you're talking about. Is like some of the things that are needed in society is not what people want, right?
Yeah,
And so, and that's true for us too. The
yeah,
things that we want aren't the things that we need.
yeah.
And so I think it's really important to remember that and to remind ourselves. And I feel like I'm kind of along that wavelength because my first tarot deck is it's called the Star of Inanna Tarot. That's the name of it. And so it's going to be a tarot deck like centered around Inanna and her life and her mythology, and creating some new mythology with the downloads and stuff we're receiving as a Coven of Inanna and all that stuff. And so I understand from the get go that it's a very niche idea, right? Like, not everybody even knows who Inanna is or cares about who Inanna is, or the Sumerians and stuff. So I'm coming at it from the perspective of, I'm not really expecting this wide, big, huge, like viral thing, because I know that, like you said, it's almost like it's similar to the Slavic in the sense that, like, there's no like Mesopotamians or Sumerians or or descendant or Akkadians or Assyrians or whatever descendants of them in America. And so yeah, I was struggling with that, like, oh man, like when I do my Kickstarter, like I'm not gonna get like 500% funded like some of these other decks, and like I'm not gonna have this huge, whatever. And it's like, why does that I I shouldn't be going forward thinking, oh, I need to have this big, you know, response and reception to what I'm doing. I just need it to reach the people who it's meant for, right? And really, it's meant for my coven. And that's why I'm doing it, because I'm wanting to rework the rider weight system into something that is applicable to modern witches. And so I'm basically doing what Pamela Coleman Smith did with the Marseille Tarot. They took the Marseille Tarot, and Rider Waite Waite and Smith was like, all right, let's do this. We're gonna change things up, and we're gonna make it fit for our magical society. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm updating the Rider Waite Smith system to fit my magical society. And so even on that end, I understand that it's very like that niche, very specific, different. And so, yeah, it's important for me to remind myself, like, I don't need to have this big response and this big attraction. I just need to make it to the people. And I think Kim said it here too. The people that want your deck want it already. And that's the truth. Once you start putting it out there and people are interested, they're going to be like, I'm already supporting you without you even doing the deck yet.
Yeah. Another thing too that people don't really um, talk about is that, well, for me, the deck is also like an offering. So, of course, I work with
Mm.
the Slavic ancestors and the Slavic Oracle, but for me, not because I've made this deck, but I feel like we're good. Like, I made this gift, like, let's chat.
Mm.
So, and with the Magick and Medium, it's very like Hecate kind of influence. So it's not just creating a deck and making the money. This is now a part of your magical practice.
Mm.
This is also you opening portals, creating channels. So it's not just these are 330 GSN cards in a box. It's very low.
Yes.
It's above and beyond all of that. It's real magic. And even if you don't, like Kim said too, it doesn't end after the Kickstarter. I have what I want to do is even be bigger, but I made a publishing firm from this. This is my side business. Like, it's decks. So there's sales every day. What I love about decks too that I want to share is that people are always forged, hopefully, there's always going to be people becoming teenagers. There's always going to be people waking up and ascending one day, and they're going to say, I want to get into witchcraft. So this deck is always going to be relevant. Somebody's going to wake up one day and be like, I think is calling me. And then they're going to get your deck. So
Yep.
you might miss out in 2021 where it's only 500 people even know Kickstarter. Mind you, too, it's who knows Banana and who's going to be on Google. Not everybody's even on
Mm-hmm.
Google as you do. Not everybody's on Instagram. Not everybody's going to be in that new store that you can get
Yep.
a deck in at the time.
Yep.
So it's always later on people are gonna find the deck when it's their time, and people wake up at all different stages and just be glad that now you have this passive income and thing that's gonna help them.
Yes, yes, I love that, and that's actually it kind of speaks to the timelessness of just tarot and cartomancy and divination in general. Like, it's been around for so long, and there's a reason for that because people are going to be drawn to that form of magic. Like it's going to happen. People are always wanting to explore deeper into themselves, explore deeper into situations that surround them. And so they're going to want different contexts and different lenses to experience these things. And so that's why I love Oracle decks a little bit more specifically than tarot in this context because they can offer so many different, like just so many different variables and varieties and messages and this and that. So I'm really enjoying seeing how like vastly different an oracle deck can be one from the other, just even from the same creator, like you know, like if you look at your decks, it's like the Slavic Oracle, the Magick and Mediums, and then the Golden Light. Like each one of them has, like you said, it's space that it occupies, and it's so different, and they kind of elicit different responses and stuff like that. So that's really awesome. Um, I did want to. There's a couple of more questions, and then I just wanted to talk a bit about like how we can support you and what we can do and all that stuff. So yeah, the last two questions I just wanted to ask you, like, and I think we've touched on this throughout this live and stuff, but really I just wanted to know like what do you hope people get from using your decks? Or maybe this one, the Golden Light, because it's coming up and like it's really, and we did talk about it a little bit, but I just want to know like what's your main desire for people to get out of using this deck that you're coming up with now?
So I'm looking at some of the images now, and I think what I want for them is to put a better understanding of working with light itself. Like a lot of us say that we're light workers, but a lot of light workers don't actually work with light. You know, they're not saying anything, they're not saying light. So I really want you to understand light technology. I think that is awesome. Another thing is really like, I feel it is like I do have different characters, like, you know, different races and stuff, but it's a very feminine deck, and I feel that I want people to just connect with the deck. I'm kind of tired of people being like, overall, my clients do connect with the deck. What I'm trying to say is I want them to connect with the energy and not so much focus on, like, the art. Of course, you can see the art, like, she's holding a golden ball. Intuitively, I understand this. But I want this one in particular to be a portal. And that's why all my decks are portals. But this, I mean, like, I have, like, in the Magick and Mediums deck, multiple people have said to me that the forgiveness card is, like, you touch it and you're like, you know, I want them to have, like, upgrades. I know it's a big thing, especially for me to create this, but this is what I'm wanting. I don't want it to be just a deck, just a divination tool. I want it to be so transformative where the box is in your life and it's like you don't even open it and it's working its magic. So I got a lot of work to do, but that's really what I want.
Yes, no, that sounds amazing. And it actually, I skipped over a question that you reminded me of. Um, is that where the name came from, the Golden Light, because of this light working aspect? And so maybe I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you a little bit about like, yeah, what are the origins of the Golden Light? Like, how did that come to you, that the title for that? Because I love the title.
So,
When I read the title, I was like, oh my gosh, Golden Light. Like it just like it feels so right, you know? So yeah, I want to see the history.
so like a couple of years ago, like throughout different magical workings, when I've done like Enochian magic, I've worked with Golden Light, or just different protective psychic exercises. Imagine golden light all around you, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in 20, and also when I was doing Kundalini, I was
Mm.
really like focusing on golden light. So I started doing meditations where I would channel golden light, like above my crown, going through me, going through my hands, very traditional, like Reiki light working, and putting that golden light through me, through like above to the earth. So I was doing a lot of that
Mm.
healing, you know, God work, you know. And I was like, we need more of this, you know? So that's really where the golden light came from. I was like, so many people are working with different rays of lights, like the blue ray and, indigo. But I was like, I just love something about golden light. It's so powerful, transformative, high vibe. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, that's amazing. I totally feel you on that. When I, like I said earlier, when I was going through the Kickstarter and looking at the images and watching the video and seeing the different art in the images, I was like, this is literally like the perfect name for this oracle because, um, like you said, it's something that a lot of us who have been in the magical community and have been doing magic for a long time have heard time and time again, like surround yourself with golden light and all this stuff. And I've never really seen that reflected anywhere other than like guided meditations or stuff like that. And so this is almost like a practical way to connect with that golden light that you use to protect yourself and to do all the different things that you can do in your life. So I that's really awesome. I was curious to see if there was that association with the meditations and stuff. So that's really cool that that really dove into that and you really decided to give us a tool to allow us to explore what that means for us in our lives and how to really cultivate it and use it in meaningful ways and stuff like that. So that's really awesome. Um, Kim commented here, it says, yes, decks are portals, a unique world you enter to explore and receive from. So that actually reminds me of a practice that I love doing with tarot or oracle cards. It's called path working.
I love that.
And you take the card that you're looking at and then you visualize yourself entering into that card, interacting with the imagery in that card, the symbols, the people. um, and I feel that people do that. People do path working without really realizing that they are entering into another dimension. They're entering into a new world where they can learn so many things. It's not just that one card that's a portal. It's like that's just one door into the portal of that tarot space or that oracle space that's being created. And so you can have a whole city in your mind of the golden light oracle. Like when you pick up that oneness card or when you pick up that be silent card, you could be transported into that world in your mind, and then there you are inside the golden light oracle. And actually, before we do hop on, I do want you to tell us a little bit about how and why these manifesting these decks have changed your life, because I think that's a really big point
Sure.
for people to understand, like the effects that doing this has, like what this does for us in our lives.
I love that you asked this. So the Magic and Mediums one, my first one, I I always was a working girl, and I grew up in South Florida. And okay, I used to be a stripper, and I was always, a pretty good-looking gal. And in Florida, for me, I didn't have my college education, but I knew I was pretty. And in my mind, my dream was like, I just want to be like a trophy wife. Like, I don't like working. I'm not one of those feminists who are like, let's go to work. I just want to
Yeah.
cook and like, I want a
Yeah.
baby and I want to be at home.
Yeah.
Don't touch me. So for me, because that was also my dream, in my subconscious mind, and I figured this out because I do have a shaman that I would go to and journey every birthday,
Mm,
and I went on this deep
that'll
journey.
do it.
Yes. And I realized the reason why I wasn't making 100,000 and above was because in my mind I said, I'm I'm so pretty, I don't even need to make that money. I'm gonna find a millionaire. I don't need to make money
Mm,
for myself. Like, look. So that was like my little bag, and that was putting me down. And then when I made the Magic and Mediums Oracle, I knew I could have like I've been a receptionist. I've had like little jobs, you know, and I knew I could make money on my own, but this was the first thing where it was like, I'm making, like, this is a business. I'm making money on my own. It has nothing to do with how I look, who wants to fuck me. None of that. It's like, it's just a great deck. So that changed my life. It totally changed how I viewed myself as like being worthy enough and being a part of the community. Um, I always knew like I'm good at writing. I am a real psychic. I'm a real witch, but this validated me as like I have something to offer. And that will totally change your whole life once you realize that you can give, that you are worthy of living on your own financially. For me, that was a huge thing because I thought I'd always have to live with a guy. Um, so, anyways, then the Slavic Oracle came, totally changed my life because um, I realized that, which I always knew as a psychic channel, I connect to anybody. I'm a psychic channel. Like, I'm not the kind of person who believes that just because I am black, I'm only connecting to black, or just because I'm somewhat Scottish, I'm only connecting to Scottish. Like, if we do a reading, I'm going to connect to your, ancestors. I'm going to connect to this
Correct.
and that. So this really confirmed for me, because it is Slavic culture and stuff, if we just opened ourselves up to learning the history of one group, you'll learn so much about your own culture. So much of what's happening today, you can say like how paganism died and Christianity came and people were oppressed and there's real slavery. People think that it's only people of color. If you're in America, you only think it's black people. And then I realized, which I knew that it wasn't only black people, like, hello, but I really learned that oppression happens everywhere. And it's not just because you have black hair or because you're this, I'm going to oppress you. No, some people just like oppressing people. And they do things. The syncretization that you talked about, it's not just in Catholic countries. It's not just in islands. It's
Right.
everywhere. So this really will teach you the Slavic Oracle. Yes, it is Slavic specific, but you're going to learn all of this stuff, the paganism in the culture, in the dances, that's universal. Every group has struggled and every group has magic. And I think every group has a magic that if you um, have respect, you can connect to it. So that changed my life so much because I learned that, like, I for sure am connecting. Like, I do have, like I said, Slavic ancestors because of the marriage. But I've had people who are like Polish, Czechoslovakian, Russian write me long emails like they're surprised that I'm black and they're like, this deck is so good. So there's that. It's just learning that like race is like kind of BS when you're at this level. And I also learned so much about like governments do a lot of shady stuff and they repeat it. So I learned how Russia became communist. I learned how they how they stopped pagan things. They're doing it with other religions now. All the genocides, they do it again and again and again and again. And I read all the stories about it when I was creating this.
Hmm.
And then Golden Light Oracle, I definitely feel like it's changing me. I want to say with Ascension, like your DNA changes, like your spiritual DNA is
Mm.
activated. And so this is totally pushing me. Not only is it 2021, 2020 pushing me astrologically and planetary forces, it's like this deck is like, so you want to write about us? We're going to change you to be like, if you want to write about us, like, so it's, I can't even tell you how it's changing my life, but I, for 8 years, wanted to get out of being in a relationship with my current husband, and I just couldn't. Like, for 8 years, writing it down, fuck, well, I never cheated on him, but, messing around, never could do it. And once I got to the Golden Light Oracle, I was like, had the balls to just do it. Like, I had to do it. So there's no telling. Maybe I'll come back and you'll see like a huge aura around me after the Golden Light. Who knows?
Yeah, no, that's so amazing. And thank you so much for sharing your experience because I feel like if there is some hesitation, if there is some doubt about anybody's capability to make a tarot deck or stuff, hearing people living in their authenticity and hearing people's story, hearing what you said about, I never thought that I was going to be able to do something on my own and this doing this deck taught me that I can. That is so powerful because so many of us are pressured by society to do like 9 to 5 jobs and to like find things that don't resonate with us just to make money. And we're the narrative that we're told is that we are not valid enough or worthy enough to create something for ourselves in this life. You're not going to ever make enough money doing XYZ. Oh, you need to do this because it makes you more money. And at the end of the day, like you said, when you're following that authenticity, you end up receiving so much more abundance than you were expecting, so much more than what you were originally intending for. And so it's amazing to hear those transformational stories. And I think this is across the board for every single deck creator that I've made. They're like, doing this deck has changed my life. It has allowed me to like walk into my authenticity. It has allowed me to open my business. It allows me to work as an artist now that I've been always wanting to do so. And so like it's these like success stories. And even like I said, and we were talking about earlier, I've interviewed people who had, 1,300% on Kickstarter, and I've interviewed people who've had 100% on Kickstarter, and they're both valid, they're both amazing, they're both worthy, and they've both created amazing quality decks that are transformational. And so that's the key thing here is that we're on the same team. We're not here to compete with each other. We want each other to lift each other. Well, I'm hoping we want to lift each other up and give each other, that space to be who we want to be. And so I love that your experience like reflects that too. Your experience of creating these decks and really living in your full authenticity has really allowed you to be in the life that you want to live. And like you said, it's even maybe catalyzed some changes that were in the works for many years, and it was like the last drop that really kind of made those events happen. And so I think that if you are looking for that in your life and you're looking to change your life in that way and you're looking to be part of that change within your life and you're being called to create a deck, like fucking do it, right? Like do it because it's going to be hard and it's going to be crazy and it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be magical. I just wanted to know if there was just like a final piece of advice that you had for people who are deck creators or wanting to be a deck creator or whatever.
I'm just gonna pull a card.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so
That's
final advice I
amazing.
have for deck creators. Wow, this is controversial,
Okay.
and this is why I love it. I pulled the ginger card. The thing about Oracle decks is you can't make an Oracle deck and try to be trendy or follow what's political. Spirit is not political. It's not limited to the rules and the language of the day. So make a deck that is truly you. If you are in your feminine, if you're in your masculine and that's not trending, still do it because your customers are not regular. They're not muggles. They're not. So you're making a deck for people who are going to see things and they're going to be moved. They're going to know, okay, this card might offend me, but that's because I need to work on something. This is the shadow coming up. You need to be you need to channel what needs to be channeled. So don't be afraid to be controversial. Don't be afraid to be canceled because you put a controversial card in your deck. That's not your job. Your job is to help heal people, to bring light into their world through these divination decks. This is magic. This provides answers and insight and clarity and transformation. So if it has a word like gender, if it has sex, magic, and taboo, then so be it. It's going to save someone's life, literally. So that's the
Wow.
message.
Wow, that's a strong message, and I think that that's so amazing because so many of us may, we want to like stop ourselves because of fear, because of not fitting in with the muggles, hashtag not for muggles. I love that because, I refer to the non-magical folk as muggles all the time. Like, so I love that you said
Yeah.
that. but I think it's definitely a big thing of like self-doubt and, or just being afraid of what other people are going to say about what you're doing. And you're gonna get criticisms. You're gonna get people who aren't gonna like what you're doing. That is going to happen. You cannot stop yourself from achieving what you want because of fear of what others are going to say. And
Yes.
like you said, these decks, when you're bringing them out into the world, they change your life, right?
Yeah.
And so and so when they change your life in that way, and you're wanting to create change in your life in that way, that's when it's important to step into that fear and say, you know what, I'm not going to let that fear stop me. I'm going to step into that, work with that, and like use it to allow myself to actually manifest something even stronger and even more authentic, because you're going to be like, you know what, F the haters, I'm going to do me, I'm going to do what I want. And so I think that's such a powerful message. I just wanted to create some space here for you to let us know, like, where to find you, how can we support you. I would ask what's coming next, but we're still kind of in Kickstarter phase. So,
Uh,
but I can ask that if there is anything coming next, if you're willing to share. But yeah, so where to find you, how to support you, and possibly what's coming next if there is anything.
so you can find me at magicandmediums.com, where magic is, of course, spelled Magick. The Golden Light Oracle, you can go to bit.ly/Golden Light Oracle. That's on Kickstarter now. And obviously, I'm on Instagram, Magick and Mediums Official. And I am, so like I said, the Golden Light Oracle has totally pushed me. A big thing about working with Golden Light or doing any magic is that you should be prepared for your life to change. So I'm moving, um, and the whole divorce thing and all that, but I do have plans for other decks, which is the Lakshmi Oracle. Yeah. And then I'm also like you, where I don't know. I think it's going to be an oracle. I've always made oracles, but me and the artist have been just so in love with the Slavic Oracle, creating decks that introduce you to like a cultural magic. And so she's Colombian, and I grew up in Florida, so I like am used to seeing it magic. So we were going on like, should we make like a oracle deck that's Colombian mythology and gods, and so it's most likely going to be an oracle. I was thinking it should be a tarot because people love tarot, but that's a tall order. So I
Yes, it is.
yeah. So that's what I'm into is like I have to finish the Golden Light Oracle. I think it's going to be the most demanding deck of my life because already like the main reason why I'm moving out is because I was like, I need to make this deck and I can't make this deck with my current husband in my space. So that's how dedicated I
Mm.
am to like making this deck. So yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But I'm so excited. I have this and then those two other decks and I really want to like do more videos. Like I used to do like
Mm.
full moon, the readings and like all that stuff on YouTube. So I think I'm gonna start getting into that too.
And would that be on YouTube? People can find you on YouTube for
Yeah,
that?
I do have a YouTube channel as well. My interviews are up there with other people, and it's Magick and Mediums on YouTube. So everything is Magick and Mediums.
So I'm so grateful that you shared your story with us today or tonight, Anielle. And I'm so grateful for this conversation. I had such an amazing time.
That's fun. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're so welcome. I'm so grateful for all of your amazing work. Make sure to follow her on Instagram as well so that you can stay tuned for all of her future projects. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know we've been on for a little bit, but it's been such a great conversation. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Have a lovely night, everybody.